D, D, D.
We're the Knights who say D.
D, 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 D. We're all over the place with IPs now. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike.
I'm Nick.
We are the Brothers Murph, and we are continuing our alphabet series where we are doing each letter in turn and talking about 10 games that start with that letter, this being the letter D. This episode is brought to you by the letter D. And we're going to talk about games that just start with that. So one thing that's been really cool is people from home have been giving their lists in the comments, and we hope that you'll join us in that. It's not too late to go back. We're only on D. We're only 4 of these in. Go give us your favorite games from A, and then B, then C, then D, because there's so many games out there. We're only going to talk about 10 today, but there's obviously so many more. But I think we should just hop right into it. Let's do it. Our number 10 is going to be Dinosaur Island Rawr and Write specifically. This is the roll and write version of Dinosaur Island, Dinosaur World, Dinosaur Island. There's a lot of island games. And this is one of the best ones. Actually, this is the best one in our opinion. We love the Rawr and Write. It's really, really good because I love Dinosaur Island, but there's kind of too much going on. This is a game where you're building out a kind of Jurassic Park, an amusement park with dinosaurs in it. But of course, they can break out and eat all your people and all that kind of stuff. And you're also taking like safari tours through your park to show people it's very, very Jurassic Park, but kind of done in this very like 90s bright colored way that I really, really love with beautiful Quanchai Moria art. So Dinosaur Island, like I was talking about, is really, really fun, but kind of has too much going on and kind of, in my opinion, needs to be scaled back a bit, cleaned up a bit. They came out with Dinosaur World, which is also better, but it's also humongous and also kind of has too much going on. And then Dinosaur Island, which is the 2-player version, is really, really good. Probably my favorite of those 3. And then they came out with the Rawr and Write. And the Rawr and Write is a roll and write version that's kind of a mashup of all of those games. And because of that, and because of the fact that it's smaller, it's honestly better. You get all of the things that I really, really like in Dinosaur Island and in Dinosaur World, but it's put into a smaller, simpler package that's also a roll and write. And so I really like the whole Dinosaur Island World universe. I like all of those games, but the Rawr and Write is honestly my favorite. It's just really, really good. Number 9 is a new game to us. This is Dreadful Meadows. This is a perfect Halloween fall kind of game where you are these kind of monster factions like a pumpkin head, Jack Skellington type character or a ghost character. But you are all candy makers. You just make candy in this weird, fantastical Halloween kind of world. And you're trying to make the best kind of candy you can by building out these little plots of land that will produce a certain type of candy that's also, kind of less valuable or more common and less common. And you are trying to fulfill these kind of contract cards, build up your production. The candy that you get is also your currency, so you want to spend that to get better plots of land, and as you kind of move around your little characters, you're going to produce on all the things kind of around it. So there's a lot of like spatial puzzle stuff that goes with this. You get these kind of like harvester producers that will then kind of combo together and make your production spread further. There's so much fun stuff to explore. It's got great pieces, great components. The little candies are just like really nicely done. And it's not a super hard game to explain, but it is much more kind of crunchy and puzzly than it lets on at first. And I think that's a really kind of cool thing that you can have such an approachable theme and get into it, kind of easily, but you can dedicate some time to getting better at this game. So it's a really cool thing with the theme. I want more and more Halloween kind of themes for games. I want more all holidays versus themes for games. And this is a great one that will kind of get played every October. Number 8 is the Mahjong-inspired game Dragon Castle. Dragon Castle is really, really good. Like I said, this is inspired by Mahjong. And so you have a board in the middle that has these beautiful chunky tiles on them that look, again, kind of like Mahjong tiles. And then you each have your own little player sheet. And your player sheet, you're essentially gonna be drafting tiles from this main board and then putting them on your player sheet. What you're trying to do on your player sheet is trying to match colors. So you want yellows next to yellows, green next to green, blue next to blue, that kind of stuff. And when you're drafting them, you have to draft one of the tiles from the top level of the board, and then you can draft the exact same symbol and color from somewhere else. So if it's like red, which are swords, if you draft a 3 red from the top, you have to draft a 3 red from somewhere else. But then when you put it on your board, you just have to put it next to, you can put it anywhere, but you want to put it next to another red. Once you get 4 of the same color, you are going to flip those tiles over, and then you are going to gain points. But you want bigger groups, so you have to build out your stuff to essentially have them close by, but not necessarily adjacent, touching, because once you have 4, you have no choice, you have to flip them over. So you might put 3 here and 3 here, but you have one spot, you can pop one in and then flip all 7 of those over. Really, really nice. But then on top of that, you can start building up. And the higher you build, the more stuff you're gonna get, which is really, really cool. And the cool thing is when you're building stuff and you're trying to, if you're deciphering whether or not something is adjacent, you're always looking at it from a top-down view, which means if something here is on level 3 and something here is on the bottom level, looking at it from this way, you see they're not the same. But if you're looking at it from the top-down view, boom, all of a sudden they're adjacent. So it doesn't matter what level they're on as long as they're still side by side. So you can get some really cool, tricky stuff. And on top of that, the drafting is like really tactical. You can like hate draft a lot. It's really, really great. Cool theme, absolutely beautiful production quality. I love Dragon Castle, great abstract strategy game. Number 7 is Dice Miner. This is a dice drafting game where you have a mountain that creates a little pyramid of dice, and you're going to be taking out usually 1 die from the kind of topmost, outermost edge of the mountain that you are mining out as the little dwarf characters. You're going to have a little character that gives you kind of a virtual dice face or a couple of faces of dice that'll help you out. And the kinds of dice you get and the faces they show are going to help you. So the kind of standard white dice are tunneling dice. You want to make sets of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or as big of a run as you can, or I should say 1 through 5, but it has to start with number 1. You can't start your tunnel on a 4. That would be crazy. There are hazard dice, which actually lose you points, but you can also get tools that will help you. You can get shields to kind of combat against dragons. And now what was once negative is now a positive. There's these gems you can collect. Whoever has the most gems gets bonus points for having the most gems, but they're otherwise just straight up worth a point apiece. So it's really fun to try to focus in on certain areas, but you also have beer on every single die. The 6th face is a beer, and what you can do is take a beer that you have in your dice area, cheers to somebody, and toss in that die, which rolls it new. They get to collect that die, and then you get to take 2 things off the mountain. You no longer have to take stuff from the very top. You can take stuff from anywhere on the outermost edge of the mountain. So you can't go from the very middle, but you get to take 2 dice that turn. So maybe, you know what, it's like, I'm not in the gem game. This person isn't either. I'm gonna send them this die. It might give them a gem, which will give them a point, but I get 2 things that I really do need for my purposes of mining out this mountain. So it's a really fun, quick kind of filler game with great production value. Each round gets better and better because the dice that you collect in round 1 you keep, and then you add to it for round 2 and round 3, so you get this bigger and bigger trove of dice, which is really fun to play with. That is Dice Miner. Number 6 is all about passive-aggressive home life, and this is Décorum. What a weird theme, but I love it. Décorum is a game where you are living in a house with other people, and you are passive-aggressively living there. I.e., you have a certain way you want this house to look. You're like, I want blue walls, I want no lamps in the bedroom, and I want a blood red kitchen. You have all these specific things that you want. But everyone else also has specific things they want in this house, but no one knows what each other's stuff are. So you're constantly changing stuff in the house, putting things out, taking things in, putting things out, taking things in, reverse that, you know how it goes. And you're constantly changing stuff, and then the only thing you can ever say is whether or not you like it, whether or not you're neutral on it, or whether or not you hate it. So if I need, like say one of my stipulations is I can have no lamps on the bottom floor, and then Mike goes and puts a lamp in there, I'm just like, no, I hate that, I hate that. I mean, I don't hate you, I hate that. And now I'm starting to hate you. And you just get really into like the role playing of being super passive aggressive about everything. But as you're putting stuff out, you're also paying attention and trying to figure out, okay, every time I put a lamp, Mike might be thinking, every time I put a lamp in the bottom floor, Nick keeps taking it away. Maybe there can't be a lamp down there. And everyone has different stuff, but there is a way to solve this problem. There is a solution for it. It's not like there's a situation where there's no way to solve the problem. It can always be solved. So you have to work together and deduce what everyone needs so you can have the house be harmonious for everyone. It's a really weird theme, and I absolutely love it. Number 5 is Draftosaurus. This is a really simple, delightful drafting game with these little dinosaur meeples. So you are building out a zoo, a dinosaur zoo, like you do, and you are adding dinosaurs to different enclosures that are going to have different kind of rules, I'll say, or things that make them valuable. So the first one, you're going to get rewarded for the more dinosaurs of one type you can put into that enclosure. So if I get a bunch of Triceratops, you can get more and more points. There's also a different enclosure that you want all different types of dinosaurs. You might want one where you want pairs of dinosaurs and things like that. So each turn, you're going to choose one dino from what you have in your hands. You're going to pass all the dinosaurs to the player to your left and right, but there's restrictions based on a die about where you can place, either to the left of your board or the right, or the top or the bottom. But whoever rolls that dice gets to break the rule and place wherever they want. So there's just enough here to like give you some intrigue, give you a little bit of a puzzle, but it's super easy to explain. You can explain and play this game in like 12 minutes, and that is a perfect kind of filler game. Those little dino meeples are adorable. They are just very satisfying, and it's a quick experience that has always gone over well with people. Number 4 is one of my favorite games of all time, and this is Dungeon Pets. This was one of our first forays into board games, which was way too heavy of a foray, but it made me fall in love with thematic Euros. Dungeon Pets is a game, it's a sequel to Dungeon Lords, and in this game you are pet shop owners, and you are raising monsters for Dungeon Lords. So like these weird big teeth gnashing all over the place kind of monsters, or like cute little caterpillar monsters, all sorts of different stuff. It just kind of depends on what the Dungeon Lords want, because the different Dungeon Lords are going to want different kinds of pets. So sometimes they might want really aggressive pets, or they might want ones that eat a lot, or something like that. So you're getting these pets and you're raising them in a specific way to try to then sell them to a Dungeon Lord for the most points. It's a really, really weird theme that works really, really well. And you can get different enclosures for these animals that hold them in, because some might be really magical, so you need a really magical enclosure so they don't break out and run around town. You can go get food for them. You can rig competitions and stuff. You get new pets, all this different kind of stuff. It's a worker placement game, and it's just really, really good. There's some fiddliness to things. I would love to see a second edition of this game at this point, because there's some fiddly things about it that I would love to see kind of changed. But nonetheless, I still love Dungeon Pets. Again, it was my first foray into thematic Euros, and it's one of the things that made me fall in love with board games the most. And I still absolutely adore it. So Dungeon Pets is still up there for me, and it's just so good. Number 3 is Detective Club. This is a social deduction game with these kind of trippy, dreamlike cards, kind of a la Dixit, another great D game. Detective Club gives you a hidden traitor there, where you are, if you're the kind of lead investigator, going to write a prompt based on some cards that you have, like Ocean or whatever it is you want, and you're going to write it on pads, with the exception of one pad will be left blank. Then you're going to randomly shuffle this up and distribute them to all the other players, so no one knows who has the blank one, including the lead investigator. And then the lead investigator is going to play a card that's going to hopefully point people in the direction of Ocean, but maybe not be too obvious, because you want the people who already know the clue to get it and be able to then play cards that are kind of Ocean-ish as well, and you leave that kind of traitor in the dark. But what's great about this game is the cards are varied in, they're wildly different from each other. So me, I might be on the level, I might be a good guy, but I don't have any cards that are at all water-based, you know, or can point to the ocean at all. So I now have to play cards and hope I can explain myself well. If you're the baddie, you don't know what's going on, but you might be able to pick up on a theme based on all the cards that are being played. So you can play a card like, there's a lot of water, I'll do this thing as a cup, you know, like whatever it might be. And then at the end of the round, the lead investigator reveals the clue, and then everyone goes around and says why their cards make sense for that clue. So if you're the traitor, you also do get to hear what the answer is prior to having to explain yourself. And everyone sort of looks suspicious because the cards are just super weird, and everyone sort of looks like they could be a good guy because the cards are super weird. So this one just creates a lot of that intrigue, and it's not like, we always say, like, it's not one of those games, it's like, you just better be a good liar. You don't have to be a good liar here because you're going to look good or bad kind of just based on your cards anyway, so you can kind of hide if you're the baddie, and if you're a goodie, you better explain yourself well. Our number 2 is Downforce. This is one of our favorite racing games. Downforce is a game where you are Formula 1 racers. You're trying to do one lap around a racetrack, and you're going to be betting on who you think is going to be winning. So you essentially own a car. You're not actually the one technically racing. You are just an owner of a car. And then as the cars go past these yellow lines on the board, you are going to be betting on who you think is going to win, and you do not necessarily need to bet on yourself. And when you play out a card that moves the cars, it's interesting because on pretty much every card, there's multiple different cards, and you have to move everyone on there. So if it says move red 6, yellow 2, and then black 1, you will then have to move in that order, red 6, yellow 2, black 1. And when you're moving them, you kind of get to choose where they go. So you're always having to move everyone's cars, not just your own, because again, you're the owner of one of those cars. And so it's this interesting puzzle of trying to get the ones that you're betting on out in front while trying to bottleneck everyone else. They kind of get stuck behind, because if I'm going all in on green, even though green is not my car, I'm just going to bet on green and start playing green cards to try and get green going so that they can win and I can win money. It's really, really fun. It's a simple game. You can get into it pretty easy. You can, like, every car also has a special power, but you can also, like, take out those special powers if you're playing with, like, younger kids. It's just really, really fun. There's a whole bunch of different maps for it. I think there's, like, 8 of them now. So there's a whole bunch of different tracks that all do different stuff. It's just really, really fun. I love Downforce. Number 1 is Darwin's Journey. This is a game that we just finally got from Kickstarter recently. And this is a big worker placement game where you are kind of peers of Charles Darwin, and you are going around the Galapagos Islands and stuff in the time that they were sailing around, and you're trying to discover new species and stuff, send species back to museums to learn and you know, increase in our pursuits of understanding nature, which is really, really cool. What's really interesting is this is kind of a tight resource game that gives you a lot to chunk on. There's a lot of bonuses you can put together. And there's kind of the thing where you should probably focus on what you want to do, whether it is going to be like, I'm going to send a lot of species to the museum, or I'm really going to explore the islands on my ship and with my little people on the lands to get a bunch of bonus actions going. There's a lot of things to explore. As you play the game, you might reveal and create new worker spaces that weren't there at the beginning, so there's kind of more and more stuff to explore, and you kind of get credit for putting your lens out there and bringing this action to the game, and people will have to pay you money to use it. There's a lot of fun stuff to consider with this one. This is a game that, like, we saw, knowing the designers, were like, okay, this is gonna be our game. And then we had to wait a long time to get it, and you're kind of like, what if we don't like it? And then we played it, and we like it. And you're like, sure enough, you're like, yeah, it's great. So that is Darwin's Journey. There's so much more to explore. There's expansion stuff in the box we haven't even gotten to. So that's just off the base game alone. That is Darwin's Journey. So that was our top 10 favorite games that start with D. D was also a very good letter. A lot of really great games that start with D. It's just cool. It's fun. It's been really fun to kind of go through these and see, like, oh yeah, there's a lot. It was like, man, are that many games that start with D? Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them. And we haven't played even so many more than that. But nonetheless, that is our favorite games to start with the letter D. What are your favorite games to start level D? Again, do this whole series along with us. We got a whole bunch of videos more to go. It's been really, really fun so far. We're excited to keep going. And until next time, I'm Nick.
I'm Mike.
We're the Brothers Murph. We'll see you later, everybody.
Catch y'all next time.